welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we are doing on Saturday evening. Is it Sunday morning yet? Yes, it's Sunday morning. Joining us from Gainbridge Fieldhouse. God, I feel like an old man when I keep making the same mistake.
You better get it right, buddy. You're going to be
I know,
here,
it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, site of games 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals, home of the Eastern Conference champions for the first time in 25 years after the Indiana Pacers beat the New York Knicks in Game 6, is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
Joining us from Dallas, Texas, where he's making plans to go to Indianapolis in about 10 days, is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. I've had my hotel reservations in Indy for at least a couple weeks now, 2-3 weeks. 49 states, it's just basketball. But we're going to Indiana.
By the way, I know that Josh Hart announced after the game that he dislocated his finger. He's not the only guy who dislocated his finger today.
True. It's true.
It's true. True story.
Left ring finger there.
Oh my God, that ring is not coming off anytime soon.
I can get it off, but thing about it was, we were on the losing side. Me, my boys, a couple other kids.
Josh Hart.
Against the bun. Well, Josh Hart. No, I won the last one. We were on the losing side the game before, and I had to kind of dominate the glass against all these middle school.
Against 12-year-olds.
My matchup was 14. He's actually going to high school. But, thought I jammed it. I looked down, and my finger was pulling like a Sean Marion or a Lionel Hollins, kind of going the wrong direction. Just gave it a little yank, and boom, it's right back in place. We did win the last game, though.
That's a Texan right there, Bontemps. Pops his finger.
All I'll say is I've covered Lionel Hollins. I've seen his fingers, and I really hope it didn't look like that.
And Perk has a sideways finger too.
Yeah, it happens. This one was temporary, just a few seconds.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be in good condition with your typing, which you're going to be needed for the lead up to Game 1, which is coming up on Thursday night.
Wait, I thought they were sending Bontemps for me to dictate to, so he could actually.
Oh, that's his job. Bontemps is good.
How slow I am.
That's absolutely not going to be my job. Absolutely not.
All right. Well, let's get to business here. The Pacers played a very Pacers-esque game in Game 6. They win by 17, and their speed game was back. Their turnover game was back. Their score off turnovers and score after made baskets was back. How many times, Bontemps, did they get a leak out after an inbound? It might have been 4 or 5. And
look, all you got to say is fast break points 25-10,
and
points off turnovers 34-13.
Yeah,
34. That's a. Let's keep an eye on that points off turnovers. That's going to be a pretty big key come finals. But dude, when you score and you're playing the Pacers, you might want to find Pascal Siakam. He's that really fast guy who's sprinting down toward the other end, and if you don't sprint with him, he's going to get the ball and he's either going to dunk it or lay it up, like he kept doing over and over again against these sloppy, Cancun-bound New York Knicks.
Yeah, if you're the Knicks, look, we're going to talk plenty about the Pacers. This was just a giant, in my opinion, missed opportunity for the Knicks. I know the stat line at the end looks good for the Pacers. Obviously, it was a comfortable win in the end. This was not a comfortable win for much of the game. The Pacers did not play very well, despite hitting a bunch of threes in the first half. And the Knicks just kicked this game away. They could not handle the ball. Like you said, MacMahon, there were just constant breakouts off made baskets and off missed layups. It turned into layups at the other end for Indiana. Just a ton of sloppy miscues, both on defense and with the ball. 18 points, 18 turnovers for 34 Pacer points, almost 2 points per turnover. The Knicks were very disappointed after the game, and it's understandable why, because they had an opportunity to extend this series, and they did not come close to taking advantage of it.
I'm not going to agree with you to say they gave it away, but the Pacers took it, but they certainly didn't play a game that was suitable for what was needed here.
Well,
The
they had
separation.
my point is they had opportunities in the first half to take control of the game and really put the Pacers on the back foot. And they kept handing the game to the Pacers over and over and over again. And even in the second half, the Pacers kept trying to let the Knicks back in the game. And then they would just make 2 or 3 mistakes in a row and it would go from 9 or 10 to 18 again.
Well,
the Pacers won the game, to be clear. They deserved to win. But
yeah, the Pacers pounced on every Knicks mistake in the second half. Every Knicks mistake, a few seconds later, is a wide open corner 3 or a Siakam dunk or layup. And then in the fourth quarter, like, okay, do you want to play deep drop on Tyrese Halliburton? Here's a floater for you. Here's a floater for you. Here's a floater for you.
The fourth quarter defense, especially Karl Anthony Towns, was not.
The game, I mean, at that point, the game was over. I mean, the game was over in the third quarter.
That's true. They started the second half.
It was a 9-0 run, 10 to start the half.
Yeah, that's pretty much where, because at the half it was 4 points.
It was a 4-point game, and if you looked at it, and the Pacers had hit more than 50% of their threes, and the Knicks had done basically everything awfully, and were down 4. And it was like, hey, if the Knicks can actually play well in the third quarter, they got a chance here.
Yeah.
And then immediately they come out, they give up a 3. Karl Towns misses 2 free throws. They give up a 3. Karl tries to drive into 3 guys and no hope turnover. And then Siakam flies down and gets an and one. Like that just summed up the way the game went.
Yeah, Cat had a really crappy end to a great season. I mean, he ended up, his numbers look fine, 22 and 14. He did not play well in this game.
Well, so did Jalen Brunson. I mean, Jalen Brunson had a phenomenal season, and he had a dreadful game too. I mean, just
5 turnovers.
Very sloppy with the ball, uncharacteristically so. And I mean, OG Anunoby was great, and look, if you want to get down to it, I mean, the difference in the series in a lot of ways is the Knicks traded a lot of picks for Mikal Bridges, and the Pacers traded a lot of picks for Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
And Pascal Siakam played like a guy you trade a lot of picks for, and Mikal Bridges didn't.
Siakam looks like you say a lot of picks. Siakam looks like a discount compared to what they gave for Bridges.
I understand that, but my point is both teams pushed their chips in to make a trade for a guy they thought was going to push them ahead, and Pascal Siakam played like it in this series, and it's a huge part of why the Pacers are in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Siakam in a minute. Bridges had 5 turnovers as well. The Pacers, especially Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, regardless of where his ankle was, I don't know how much it was affecting him the last couple of games, but he got into foul trouble early on. And so
he was just bad early on. I mean, he got blown by Jalen Brunson in the first 2 possessions of the game. They just took him right off of him, put Nembhard right on him then.
Yeah, I'm not sure if his ankle's affecting him or not. I don't know. But
I saw he said after the game that he definitely needs this little break between series.
He banged his knee in the second half as well. But the point is, Andrew Nembhard was the primary defender on Jalen Brunson for most of this game. And Nembhard was spectacular in all facets of this game. And he had 6 steals, which he probably affected another 6 possessions that, either resulted in a turnover elsewhere or disrupted the Knicks. And what I think is a defining moment in the game, I don't know who he actually technically picked his pocket. I don't know who got credit for the turnover, probably Brunson, because it was off a screen. But he picked Brunson's pocket and got a breakout layup in the third quarter. And Brunson, and he was, even though Brunson didn't have the ball, he was, face guarding him from 90 feet up the court. And Brunson got so frustrated that he headbutted him.
Yeah. And Brunson is typically a pretty unflappable dude.
Right.
Nembhard absolutely got under his skin tonight.
Without question.
And affected his game. And, was a big part of the Pacers closing this series out. Also had 8 assists, by the way. 14 points, 8 assists, 6 steals. For a guy you can consider, I don't know, 4th starter, maybe even 5th starter, heck of a performance.
To just put a bow on the Knicks. Honestly, I'm seeing a lot of criticism of them, and this was a series that was close. These teams were pretty comparable. There are is, are, were, whatever scenarios in which the Knicks could have won this series, specifically had they not let game one go through their fingers.
Yeah.
But I will just say, I don't think it's fair to discount how well the Pacers played in the series writ large, I should say. And I also,
the Pacers controlled the run of play in 5 of the 6 games. Like they dictated the way the game was. I should say 4 of the 6 games, because most of game 1 they didn't. But the Pacers, by and large, dictated how the series was going to be played. That's why they won the series. They were the better team.
I would say, game 1. I don't know if I would say, the 2 games they one game they scored 100, one game they scored 94. The Knicks controlled the pace of play, and game 1 could have gone the Knicks. So
I know this. Pacers had a chance to close it out tonight, came in wearing all black. Coaching staff were all black, and
Reggie Miller wore black.
Yeah. Unbiased Reggie Miller on the TNT broadcast.
Well, look, what do you want to say? I did not think he was biased on the broadcast, and he played there for 18 years. What do you want? Anyway, what I was saying is, the proper team won. The team that performed better won. The Knicks could have won this series. They needed to play better. They didn't. However, they had an excellent playoffs, and they had a strong season. They had issues in the regular season against the top teams, but they had a strong playoffs. And I'm seeing a lot of anti-Tibbs stuff out there. And you can present a case that he didn't touch all the right buttons here, but he also made a lot of changes during the course of this series to try to figure out the Pacers. He changed his starting lineup. He expanded his rotation. He made over the game plans. Tibbs did some coaching in this series, and it wasn't perfect. I agree. And, I'm just saying, I'm seeing this, what I think is an unfounded swell against him and an unfounded swell against the Knicks. They have a challenge on their team, which is that they have a couple of weaker defensive players that in a playoff setting can be picked on. And it sets the standard for their offensive play to be very, very high at the highest level against the best teams, not necessarily against every team, but against the best teams. The standard that they have to hit offensively to make up for their defensive issues is very high. And that is one of the big challenges with this team. But despite that, I think that they achieved extraordinarily well throughout the course of this season and this playoffs. And again, it's revisionist history to say that they won the Celtics series because of injuries. They were going to be up 3-1 when Jason Tatum was unfortunately injured. Jaylen Brown, I see people saying that Jaylen Brown had a bad knee. Jaylen Brown was awesome in game 5. His knee may have been affecting him a little bit. He was excellent. Porzingis was off, but this
is kind of a weird jag. I mean, the Knicks had a weird season, right? They had a good season, but they had a weird season. They couldn't beat any good teams in the regular season. They then had a up and down first round series against the Pistons where they got through it, but it wasn't easy.
They won.
They did. I'm just saying it was a hard fought 6-game series.
Yeah.
Then they had an extraordinarily strange series against the Celtics where they got outplayed for the vast majority of the first 5 games and then won the last game.
You say strange, I say winning.
Yes, they won. They won the
finals.
They won the games, and then they blew them out in game 6, and then they got handled pretty consistently throughout the conference finals.
I don't know. I don't agree. They were the better team clearly in 2 of the games, and they botched 1.
They got breaks and created their own breaks to get home court advantage in the conference finals, and they went home in 6 games. So all in all, good season, but you can have a good season that's also disappointing because they had a golden opportunity in front of them. They couldn't take advantage of it. And, season on the line tonight, they got their butts kicked pretty soundly by the Pacers. And especially, the second half, they just got absolutely dominated. And it was dominated by, they were sloppy. They were sloppy defensively. They were sloppy with the ball.
Yeah, they did not put their best foot forward tonight. This was their worst game of the series.
They didn't want to see the Oklahoma City Thunder with that transition defense.
Look, they were pretty soundly beaten in the series. They just were. So I think they could have won the series.
I am sorry, I disagree. They were beaten,
okay.
Yes, but they were just demonstratively better in 2 of the 6 games, and the one game they had a historic blow.
I mean, they were demonstrably better in game 1 and blew the game. They were demonstrably better in game 5. They got beat pretty soundly on their home court in game 2.
I mean, they definitely
got beat. And in game 3, they were bad for 3 quarters, and then Karl Towns had 20 points in the 4th quarter, and they won.
Right. This will make Knicks fans feel better. If not for that historic choke job in game 1 where Tyrese Halliburton rubbed it in your faces.
Yeah.
In the
Aaron Neesmith had something to say about it.
Arena, the whole crowd's faces with the choke thing. If not that epic choke job, this would be going back to Madison Square Garden. That'll make those trash tossers feel better.
Look, the thing is, like, again, the Knicks had a good season. It was, I think, a hard season to read on what their actual level is. The fact that the Celtics are probably not going to be in the mix next year. I think as of right now, if you look at the East, the Pacers to me are the clear team to look at as the favorites going into next season, understandably so. And then you've got the Cavs and the Knicks, the 2 teams that lost to them, that in a lot of ways had the same problem, which was an inability to guard at the highest level when it mattered. And this summer, the Knicks have their top 7 guys. They're very good. The Mikal Bridges trade was not a good trade, but at this point, it is what it is. And they have the ability to go out and add depth to the roster. And, like, look, for example, Al Horford is a free agent. I don't think at this point it makes a lot of sense for Al Horford to be back in Boston. Maybe he will be. But given where things are with the Celtics, I think he's now much more in play than he might have been a month ago. Al Horford is a longtime friend of Karl Towns, has played with him with the Dominican national team for a long time. If they go get Al Horford this summer, who I think would be an unbelievable fit on this Knicks roster, and they go get another perimeter player to deepen their rotation, and they have a bench of Al Horford, another ball handler, Deuce McBride, and Mitchell Robinson to go with their starting 5, that's a much better team. That's a team that could beat the Pacers next year. That's a team that'll be in the mix in the East. So
what if they go much bigger than that and they shake up this core and they go get somebody else who the Pacers eliminated?
I just don't. I mean, look, I'm not going to rule anything out, but I think the Knicks, the Mikal Bridges trade really put the Knicks in a bind because they put all their chips on the table to get Mikal Bridges. They don't really have the draft capital necessary to make that kind of swing. So sure, I'm not ruling anything out. We saw Luka get traded. Anything is possible. But I think it's more likely, if you look at this Knicks team, they have the tax mid-level exception they can use. They have playing time available. They're in New York City. Like, they should be able to get depth on the roster after their top 7 guys. And if they add some depth to the roster beyond their top 7, so they're not having DeLon Wright taking open threes in the second half of the game that ended their season. Look, DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet played well for them and changed a lot of these games. But if those spots in the rotation are significantly upgraded, this Knicks team looks a lot different, and perhaps this series looks a lot different. But they and the Cavs go into next season looking up at Indiana with the same question.
Yeah.
Can we guard them well enough to beat them 4 out of 7? And as of right now, the answer for both those teams is a pretty resounding no.
Well, we also have to see the Knicks, as you said, are going to have their top 7. And if they choose to, we'll be able to bring them back and add to it. The Celtics, I don't know if I can say that. I would say,
well, they're not. I mean, they're not.
Yeah.
But we're not counting this. The Celtics are set aside.
The Cavs are the other team that he mentioned.
Yeah, well, the Cavs, not the Celtics.
I know. Well, the Celtics are going to have to take some pieces off. We know Tatum will be out for a long time, and they may have to lose a piece or two. The Cavs may have to lose a piece or two. I'm not sure. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm not 100% sure that the Pacers will come back. Now, I think that they will go into the tax. I did a story last week that where the Pacers are expecting to have ownership approval to go into the tax for the first time in 20 years. They were last in the tax in the 2004-5 season, which was the Malice in the Palace year, where they had lost in the conference finals the year before. They went to the tax that year. I wrote about it. They were largely in the tax because of the contract that they gave Austin Crozier. After the last, he had like a brilliant. They lost the 2000 finals to the Lakers, but Crozier had a brilliant finals, and then they gave him a huge contract, and that was sort of near the end of it. And anyway, they haven't been in the tax since, and they've paid less than $10 million in the tax in the history of the franchise.
Well, a finals run justifies those kind of things, and
I agree. And so Miles Turner is
and as long as Miles Turner is back, they also could make a move to get out of the tax and not really mess up their team.
Right. Also. But I would just say that from what I am told, the hope and belief and whatever is that ownership will greenlight them going a little bit into the tax for a little while.
Well, and that's good. Ownership also greenlighted a trade for Pascal Siakam, knowing there was going to be a max contract essentially as part of that deal. And that is a move.
Let's talk about that. Let's switch over to the Pacers real quick. A year ago, the reason that it was more than a year now, but the trade deadline 24, the reason that the Raptors traded for him was because they didn't want to pay him the max.
Right.
And Siakam he wanted the max. It was, not a secret. And so they did.
I would also just to pause real quick.
Yeah.
But the Raptors traded away OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet, right?
They didn't trade away Fred VanVleet. He walked.
Well, and he walked. And all three of those guys were on 50-win teams this year.
I know.
And I don't know. Might have just been a good idea for the Raptors to pay those guys and have them stay on the team.
So I'm going to tell you, I don't want to get too far.
They basically turned, I'm just saying, they basically turned Pascal Siakam into Brandon Ingram. And Pascal Siakam's a lot better than Brandon Ingram.
Hold on. I don't want to get too far afield from this, but since this has come up, the Raptors are a team that is starting to make noise within the league about looking for a big fish. And I think because, and I don't want to get away from this, but I've started it myself. If you're an Eastern Conference team that's in the middle of the pack, you're looking at the teams in front of you going, some of them may not be able to come together, may be able to stay together. Boston is hurt. And so there are some teams that sniff the ability to make a move. And I think Toronto is one of those teams. And so naturally, any team that wants to make a move this summer, especially a team in the Eastern Conference, you're going to have Giannis on the board. But Toronto, I think, is going to try from their initial conversations. Teams in the league are getting the impression that Toronto is going to try to do something. I had an executive tell me yesterday that he thinks this could be an explosive summer. Just as what Shams said the other day. But this, this is the whole league. The people are saying that the amount of activity and calls happening in the league right now is a much higher volume than has been in years past.
Well, that's what we've been saying for 6 months.
I know. Does not mean it's going to happen, but Toronto is one of those teams that is sitting there on the balls of its feet, which is interesting because it's kind of like hearing Sacramento, because Sacramento is one of them too. I don't think that's breaking news. And the funny thing, of course, is that Sacramento wants a point guard.
Oh, hey.
So here's Toronto looking for a big fish when they've got a big fish in the finals who won Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
Well, and by the way, the one guy we didn't talk about who was absolutely awesome today was OG Anunoby, who was awesome for the Knicks and had a great season. And, again, if you have those three guys with Scotty Barnes, it would have looked pretty good.
Well, who would you rather have for the next 3 years, Pascal Siakam or Brandon Ingram?
Pascal Siakam by a mile.
You mean the guy who's impacted playoff winning?
The guy who had 26 and 10 in the finals. The guy who had 26 and 10 in Game 6 of the NBA Finals and had 3 30-point games in this series.
Yeah.
I'll take that guy.
And look,
please.
The Eastern Conference MVP Finals vote was 5-4, Siakam over Halliburton. If it had gone the other way, fine. Halliburton definitely took a step forward, and they said, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and then took a step back with Pascal Siakam. But, dude, Siakam was awesome in every win they had in this series. And he's a guy who you don't have to, tailor everything to him. You don't have to, run everything, hardly any plays for him. He's just outrunning everybody, scoring in transition, picking stuff up in garbage, and then, taking advantage of some opportunities in the half court. But he's a huge matchup problem, a good defensive player. No, I mean,
well, Brandon Ingram the next 3 years will make $40 million on average.
and Ingram has to have the ball. Siakam can impact games without.
And he doesn't shoot threes, and he's not a great defender. Like, Pascal's just a clearly better player. And to get into what you said, MacMahon, to shift back to the Pacers, like, the thing about the Pacers is, like, they are this symbiotic unit where everybody sort of flows into everybody else as the game is going on. And they have Halliburton obviously at the controls, and then they've got 4 guys around him who can shoot and guard
and
run. So he's very willing to kick it up to Andrew Nembhard or to kick it up to Siakam. I mean, especially with Siakam going up against Karl Towns, there's 3 or 4 possessions a game where Pascal's catching it essentially in a one-on-one situation against either Karl Towns or Jalen Brunson or Mikal Bridges, and he can just go by them to the rim, and it's an easy 8 points. And that's just because of the way that the Pacers play, and it's because of his ability to get up court and do that.
His point guard in Toronto, they let go. So, look, Ingram's making $40 million over the next 3. Siakam's making 48. So it's more money, but I don't
even think
it's not even a conversation. Right. We haven't seen Ingram play since I do remember when early December I was there, and we just watched Siakam go for 31 in a conference finals clincher tonight, and just wear the Knicks out with his relentless energy throughout a 6-game series. The stat from that Jackson put in the chat kind of sums up the series. Pacers outscored the Knicks by 74 points in transition in a 6-game series, including 31 tonight. 31 points advantage in transition. You're not going to.
And it felt like 31 points tonight.
Yeah, now
it felt like it.
Stan Van Gundy was losing his mind every time the Pacers got an outlet leak.
Dude, it's off-made baskets. He's just running go routes, and if you don't run with them, they'll kick it up to him. And dunking.
So Bontemps, the vote tonight for conference finals MVP was there was 9 voters.
This stupid award every year.
Oh, stop crying!
I'm not crying. It just becomes a controversy every year.
Who's the name?
We're gonna talk about it. I don't think it's a controversy that much. So the vote was 5-4. Halliburton got 4 votes. Siakam got 5. You had a vote. Yeah. You voted for Siakam. Yeah. You and the other 4 voters who voted for Siakam each cast the deciding vote. Not one person did.
Yes.
And I will just say, I thought, if Jackson could edit this out, but you asked MacMahon and I for our opinion, and MacMahon and I both said we would vote for Siakam. So I'll tie myself to this.
I asked several people, and they all said Siakam.
Siakam was unanimous in the group chat for sure.
Yeah. And by the way, a vote for Tyrese Halliburton isn't a bad vote.
Fine.
It's fine. I mean, if it was 5-4,
awesome.
Yeah,
sure.
So, but awesome. Why don't you use this forum to discuss your reasons for going with Siakam? Just deal with that.
I certainly think you could vote for Halliburton. He obviously had one of the greatest games you'll see offensively, like we talked about in Game 4. I just thought Siakam was the most consistent player on the team throughout the series. He had 30 points in 3 different games. He won them Game 2. His 39 points in Game 2. Like, you talk about Game 1. Yes, the Pacers blew Game 1. The rest of the Pacers were not very good in Game 2.
But
I'm sorry that the Knicks blew Game 1. The Pacers stole it.
Yeah.
The rest of the Pacers were not very good in Game 2, and Pascal Siakam stole Game 2.
39.
And that wound up. I mean, he was a monster in that game. And then, had another 30 in Game 4 alongside Halliburton. And then tonight, the game was over after 3 quarters because Pascal Siakam had 26 and was awesome in the game again. And his ability to break down Karl Towns in the half court and to get out and score buckets was a big deciding factor in the series. And again, if you want to say Halliburton's at the controls, he should get it. Totally fine. But he's awesome. Would have been totally fine. But that was why I voted for Siakam.
Sounds good to me. Congrats to both of them. Congrats to the Pacers for winning.
And the fact that those 2 guys were tied at the hip like that, I mean, full credit to the Pacers front office. Like when they got him, ever since they got Tyrese Halliburton in here, they have done a tremendous job of putting a team around him where all these pieces fit. And Miles Turner talked about it after the game, said he believes the Pacers are a team that the modern game is sort of modeled toward, and with the new realities with the CBA, the not having a quote unquote super team and having a younger team with a bunch of guys that fit and get along and play well together is a model to look at going forward. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think, like we've talked a lot, there's a lot of similarities between the two teams that are going to play in the finals, and the way they're built and the way they play. And I think one of them is demonstrably better than the other one. And I don't think the finals is going to be particularly long, but that doesn't change the fact that, like I said earlier, you look at this Pacers team, like as of today, yes, there's a million things that still have to happen between now and this time next year. But the Pacers, as of now, to me, are the clear team to look at going into the next season to be back in this position again. And that's a credit to the job Rick Carlisle's done, the job the front office has done, and obviously this group led by Halliburton and Siakam and the way they play and how much of a hard time they've given all these teams the last couple of years in the playoffs.
They changed their franchise when they made the trade for Halliburton, and then they built a roster around him that maximizes his skill set and is a great fit in the modern day NBA, where it is about pace and space and depth, and they've got all three of those things. And Halliburton is he's the engine of the whole thing, but Siakam is the guy who, that trade vaulted them into hey, that's a cute little playoff team, to, okay, that's a team that can do some damage.
So, by the way, the Siakam trade, they gave what they ended up in the summer of 23. They had $20 million in cap space that nobody really wanted. And so they gave it all to Bruce Brown. And basically, maybe Bruce Brown would have worked out as a $20 million player. As it turned out, they basically bought someone to trade with that money.
They signed a human trade exception.
Right. And Bruce, who had not made a ton of money, was happy to take the money.
Yeah. And remember, the Nuggets, I forgot the exact number, but it was a fraction of the Nuggets could only offer a fraction of that.
Right. It wasn't, they didn't, everybody had to do what they did there. So there were 3 first-round picks in that deal that they also sent. 2 of them were from last year. And I know that the pick that the actual Indiana pick, they took
Isaiah Collier. One was moved to Jacoby Walter.
Jacoby Walter, who,
and then Isaiah Collier, which that was, I forgot whose pick it was. Obviously, it was a late first-round pick. I think that it was an OKC pick, I believe, actually.
That's right. They
wound up with Utah.
Okay, so, and they've got a pick next year that's, I think, protected. That's one thing about the Mikal Bridges trade. We have no idea what the unprotected picks that the Knicks gave for that deal, what they will turn into down the line. But the Knicks gave 2 picks in the 2025 draft. Those were the first 2 assets that they gave in that. And the picks are right now the 19th and 26th picks. They also gave Bojan Bogdanovic, who the Nets paid $20 million this year, and he never played a second, and they couldn't trade him because he got re-injured and had to have a second surgery.
Right.
So I will just say, for all I know, those Knicks picks will be lottery picks, and the Nets will be laughing all the way to the bank. I'm just saying that the price paid for Siakam, I had to look up who it was.
It wasn't that high. It was a human trade exception.
Right. I know.
Some other filler. And then
I'm just saying,
2 later first-round picks, one very late, one fairly late, in a draft considered weak, and then a 2026 pick.
Yeah.
Right.
For a guy who pushed.
And again, for all I know, with the
19th
pick in this draft, the Nets will take a player who ends up being a 9-time All-Star.
And it's just another reminder that if you make a trade like that, whether it's 3 picks, 5 picks, 7 picks, whatever, you've got to hit on it, because you only have really probably one chance to really push in 2 or 3 or more picks to go get a difference-making player.
But
if
when
you
the
get a guy that's just okay, it's going to end up not look whatever the value of the picks. It's not about that. It's about what is the return on the player you get. And in this case, the Pacers got a guy in Pascal Siakam who, as you said, Big Man, they leveled up when they got Siakam.
Yeah.
And now they're a team that's been in the conference finals last year and in the NBA finals now for the first time in a quarter century.
And when the Pacers made that trade, they knew roughly the value of the 2 picks they were giving up
That's
in
right.
last year's draft. The risk there wasn't, oh my gosh, they're giving up 3 first-round picks. The risk was, okay, the Raptors don't want to max this guy. Do you really think Pascal Siakam is a max player? And as he was holding that Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy tonight, I damn sure felt like he was a max player.
Well, and it's a reminder of, too, again, like I think Carlisle made a joke about it today, that it took him a couple weeks to get used to playing with the Pacers because they were playing so much faster than Toronto was with them, right? And I think that's where the Pacers, I think, deserve credit, because they looked at Siakam in his skill set and said, if we plug him in with a space big and Miles Turner and with Nembhard and Halliburton and these guys who move the ball up the court like this is going to be a perfect fit in the way we want to play. And it's made Pascal an even better player than he was in Toronto. He was already a great player there. It's just a hand in glove fit. And it really speaks to them understanding what they needed on the roster and going out and getting it.
So from the Raptors' perspective, since we've been a little hard on them, I will say that they used next year's draft pick, which is top 4 protected, and Bruce Brown to get Brandon Ingram. So you could argue that they basically traded Siakam essentially.
That's what I said a half an hour ago. That's literally what I said.
Okay, that
was what started the whole discussion.
And okay,
yeah, but I didn't understand that the actual
we'll
assets.
see what Ingram does in Toronto. But again, that gets back to
yes,
who would you rather have, and I don't think that's really
that's not a debate right now for sure. And look,
I just know the Raptors fans are a little bit sensitive, and we haven't talked about them for months, and they're gonna
the Raptors fans will be a-okay.
Yeah, they'll be just fine. They're enjoying watching the playoffs on their couches as they always do.
All right, let's talk about the old NBA Finals, which started on Thursday. Game 1, Pacers at Thunder. I'm just going to say right now, I know they both traded for Paul George. We got it. Move on. Got it. That's right. Move on. How many times are we going to hear about that story in the next 5 days?
Hey, did you know this? Breaking news. Speaking of Canadians, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are cousins.
Exactly. Same file.
Yeah.
I know that also, here's something else. I know that Indiana and Oklahoma City are small markets.
Oh.
I get it. I get that the ratings would have been higher if it was Warriors against Celtics. Got it. Thank you.
Or if the Knicks didn't.
I just want to say something else. While everybody talks about how the NBA is going to suffer because of ratings,
they just signed a TV deal.
I know, but I'm going to say something else. I don't care what year it is. I don't care what the TV deal is. The league
got
benefits.
A lot of soapboxing for Windhorst.
First off, it doesn't even matter. Like, what does it matter to either team how long the series goes? It doesn't matter. But for people who are going to want, people on the coasts who are going to want to badmouth this finals because it's small markets, let me say this. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it's David Stern's dream of Lakers playing Lakers. The thing that you want from a business perspective, and again, I don't know why people care about it, but I'm just going to get out of the way now.
Go when you go.
The thing that you want is volume. The NBA
and guess what? They're not going to get volume.
Well, they got a better chance of getting volume with the Pacers than they did with the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks transition defense.
I don't think. Here's what I would say.
Well, you may be right about that, but I'm telling you the Pacers are a better challenge.
Watching this game today, I don't know how anybody could watch these two teams and think that there should be a serious challenge to the Thunder in the finals.
I will say this. I don't think that the Pacers are just going to be able to run fast and get layups. I think it's going to be I think that top-ranked Thunder defense will put up a few more and I'm not saying that's the only way they can score.
And to be clear,
they got a lot of easy buckets in this series.
Super easy. And the Pacers were awesome in the series, have been awesome in the playoffs, are an awesome team. But the Thunder have been challenged by exactly one team, and they have an inevitable force on their team who nearly took them down single-handedly. And they tore through Minnesota, which I would say is a similar level team to both Indiana and New York. And I expect them to tear through Indiana.
You may,
and they would
in
have torn
fact,
through New
be
York.
correct about that. The only point I want to get out 5 days before the finals start is that the NBA, no matter what anybody says, trust me as somebody who's done it for over 20 years, the NBA would rather have Toronto playing against New Orleans going 7 games than they would have the Lakers playing against the Knicks going 4.
So what you're saying is this might be a worst case scenario?
Well,
small markets, it doesn't last long.
Well, again, that could be true, but
Jackson's got a prediction.
Jackson called very
Thunder in 5.
Yeah, that's going to be a hot take.
Wendy told me he thought Thunder in 3.
I did not say that. I think I will say this. Just want to point something out. The Thunder are 80-18 this year. And they went 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. The idea that they will lose 4 out of 7 is hard to see.
It is far-fetched.
But I will also say that I want to see that Tyrese Halliburton led the NBA in assist to turnover ratio. So,
yeah,
let's see the best guy taking care of the ball, high volume at least, taking care of the ball, go up against the greatest ball hawking team I've ever seen.
It's going to be super fun. It's going to be super fun. And we've talked about it even during this series. Like, the relentlessness with which the Pacers play on offense is matched by the relentlessness with which the Thunder play on defense. And both these teams pressure full court. Both these teams use their depth. It should be, I think, a really fun series to watch. And I'm excited to watch it from a basketball standpoint. And like I said, my thoughts on how long the series are going to go is not a denigration of the Pacers. It's that the Thunder were a 68-win team, and we talked about it all year. I thought it was sort of silly the way that they were treated by most of the people in and around the league most of the year, where it was treated like the Western Conference was wide open all year.
Right.
When it was insane to have that conversation.
Who is marching? Who's the drum major for that one?
Everyone was doing it. It wasn't one person.
I kept turning on TV, and there was one person on there just telling us.
There were a lot of people saying it. There were teams in the league saying it, players in the league saying it, media people saying it. Again, I suspect that in a couple of weeks we're going to be looking at the end of the playoffs and going, Nikola Jokic almost pulled off something remarkable in the second round, and it wasn't for Lou Dort. This all might have looked a lot different.
Okay, bonus gold star for you, a rare gold star for you, Bontemps. If I was a Nuggets fan, I don't know what would have happened if the Nuggets had played the Celtics in the finals last year. I just want to point out that the only team that the Celtics didn't beat last year was the Nuggets.
Yeah.
And Jokic was...
And I don't think they would have beat the Nuggets either. I mean, we'll see, but that was the one team I didn't think they were going to beat last year.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, and you know how I feel about there's no asterisks on... Not
at all. No, finals. There's no asterisk whatsoever.
I'm just going to say that if you're a Nuggets fan, you got to be thinking about, had they not dropped that ridiculous lead balloon in the second half of Game 7 to this, would they have won that second title? And watching the way Oklahoma City just tore through Minnesota, even though Minnesota was a tough matchup for Denver, we'll never know. And
it's just a reminder that even for teams as good as that, Lou Dort hitting a bunch of threes in the fourth quarter of Game 5 saved their season.
I know. And I'm just saying that Denver...
That's how this stuff works.
Well, look, I remember what Calvin Booth, the now deposed general manager, said in that interview with The Ringer, which I will refer to maybe for the next decade, where he said, if we handle our business, or the essence of the quote was, if we handle our business, there's no reason why we shouldn't win 3 or 4. And I agreed, but they haven't handled their business.
Nope.
And so,
well, and then now let me ask you this. If the Thunder handle their business, how many should they win?
Well, listen, we're not only in the 7th, we're going to have a 7th straight year with a new champion. I think we're also in a 6th straight year, going back to 2019 when the Warriors made the finals, that the team that won the title didn't get out of the second round. I find it very hard to believe sitting here right now that both those streaks are not in serious jeopardy.
I'm just telling you.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
They've got to win one before we can start talking about
no, for sure. Absolutely. You have to. But it's all, as we've said a lot, it's all sitting there for them.
I'm gonna say that people in the league think this could be an explosive summer. So we can't have any idea what the league is going to look like.
Well, and I'll tell you, I'll say right now, let's say if the Thunder do what we expect and win 4 more games, you can take the field in terms of whatever happens this summer, and I'm taking the Thunder.
Yeah, what you're going to have in that case is a team that won 84 games, and their
oldest player is 31. They have 2 players who are 30 or older. Every other player on the team is 27 and under, and they've got draft picks and a lottery pick who's playing next year, and young guys that are all getting better. And oh, by the way, the MVP of the league, the
MVP of the league, who is a young guy still, who is getting better.
They won 68 his contract. By the way, they
won 68 games with the 2 centers missing half the year.
By July 15th, they could extend the contracts of all 3 of their young stars.
Yeah. Who are all getting better. Jalen Williams getting like leaps and bounds better every year.
And again, go back to 2012. We thought the Thunder were going to be back a lot. They weren't. It's very hard. You have to get lucky. All these things are true, but it's all for all the other chaos that's going on, and there's going to be probably chaos this summer. The era of parity could quickly be coming to an end.
Compare 3rd-year Jalen Williams to 3rd-year Scottie Pippen. That's all I'll say.
Whoa.
That's all I'll say.
Guys, it's hard to compare stats.
3rd year.
I look forward to the Pacers winning the finals at 6, by the way.
Right.
Well, look, I will say this.
Rick Carlisle has delayed a super team before.
He certainly has.
When we get to July 12th, which is when our live show is in Las Vegas, the MGM Grand.
Ooh, good plug. Good plug.
When we get to July 12th, could the Thunder have won the championship? Could the Thunder have re-signed their 3 stars? Are they rolling out their lottery pick from last year that they kept on ice this year as he was recovering from a torn ACL, Nikola Topic?
And can made his debut at Summer League rotation. He might have to roll out for the blue.
Well, or maybe he was the best player in Europe last year, or maybe he looks great. I mean, he also may not play in Summer League because he may be playing for Serbia. I don't know, but But I'm just going to say they have a lottery pick this year that they had on ice that they were able to draft that he slipped back to them because he had the torn ACL. And who knows who they draft with the 15th pick. For all I know, they'll package some stuff and there's a player they'll move up for.
Well, or they'll move back and just keep having more and more picks.
Whatever. I'm just saying, what if they roll out 2 guys in Summer League that we don't even know yet that look great? Like that's not far-fetched.
Here's the kind of problem Sam Presti has. He has to extend these guys who are max and or super max players. And he has these 2 picks in this year's draft where a full roster is coming back and no guys he wants to get rid of.
Well, and look, and because we keep talking about all the chaos this summer, right? And by the way, the live show link is hooplive.eventbrite.com. Thank you to Jackson for being on top of it as always.
God, you're such a
The reason the chaos is happening this summer is because you now look at the Eastern Conference, and yes, the Pacers right now look like the favorites, but the East is, as you said, Brian, all these teams in the middle tier in the East are going to look at it and say the Celtics are now at least temporarily on hold, and there's an opening to make a run. And out west, you've got this feeding frenzy of teams that are both just trying to make the play-in, make the playoffs, get out of the first round of the playoffs, while also looking up at this potential behemoth above them and saying, well, what are we going to do to try to keep up with that? Like, so all of that sets up for a lot of teams looking to do a lot of stuff, which in turn could lead to a lot of action.
Right. Well, you have a sandwich effect. The second apron pressing down. The teams that are in the second apron, Phoenix, Minnesota, Boston, trying to get out of it. I think all three of them are going to try to get out of it. You got a couple of teams headed into the second apron. I think Cleveland, one more. But the second apron's nowhere you want to be for long. So you're going to constantly have teams at the top, potentially squeezing out talent. And then you have some teams that have kind of gone all in over the last couple of years, don't like their hand and are going to maybe try to exit out. There's a few that I suspect could see 13 teams trying to win in the West next year. And they go, you know what? Actually, probably 14 teams, because I think Portland probably thinks it can win after the way they finished. I don't know if they've got enough talent to compete, but Finch the other day said it was 15. I'm not there yet with the Jazz.
I'll remove Utah from that one.
Yeah. So, but let's just throw the Blazers a bone and say there's 14 teams. Is there a team or two in there that's like, I don't like our standing here, and if there's 14 teams trying to win, maybe we should not. I'm not going to call those teams' names out, but I have a suspicion that they could be in seller mode. So you have some teams that are having to lose players because of salary. You have some teams that are ravenously trying to move up, and you have some teams that may try to sell because they see too many buyers. And what you got right there is a marketplace. So I don't know. We'll see.
The finals first, though.
Yes. Let's focus on the finals first. So the big thing on the finals will be both teams want to turn the ball over. The turnover battle will be they should put the score on one end of the bottom of the screen. They should put the turnovers on the bottom on the other.
I mean,
points off turnovers to decide the series.
I don't think that's, to me, that's not the question. To me, the question is I think the Thunder are much better equipped to slow down the Pacers than the Pacers are to score on the Thunder. And I think that, to me, is the question in the series. Like, for example, looking at this series, Miles Turner had a pretty rough series. Mm-hmm. Karl Towns did a pretty good number on him. I don't know what you guys think. To me, if you look at how the Knicks handled
when Karl had the ball, not necessarily.
Well, I mean, Miles didn't do much in the series.
I know, but Miles
Mitchell Robinson,
was setting screens.
I understand. I'm just saying, Miles Turner had an incredible first couple series. They didn't do much in this series. I would think the move for the Thunder is to have Isaiah Hartenstein come off the bench, start Cason Wallace, say to Chet Holmgren, you are going to be right on Miles Turner, and we're just going to take him out of the series. And then they've got 1,000 athletes to throw at Halliburton. They've got various guys that could throw at Siakam. And I'm not sure, like, the Pacers are not an awesome half-court team. They're an unbelievable offense because of how they get out and run, and they get easy buckets out of transition, and they create.
They're an awesome offensive half-court team when Halliburton is scoring, which isn't every game.
And I just, that's the thing I struggle with. The Pacers are a team that's driven by their offense, and the Thunder have a team that seems perfectly suited to lock them up.
I don't think the Thunder are going to get to the finals and say, hey, this starting lineup we've been rolling with the entire playoffs isn't going to work in this series. We're scrapping it. Now, could they start second halves like that? Could,
Dagenham always is changing his lineup in the second half.
Yeah, he's been taking Hartenstein out the second half all sorts of games. So I don't know.
Could Hartenstein's minutes be, fairly low in this series? That I could.
You could also very easily say, hey, we're going to start with the same lineup, and Miles Turner, who couldn't do anything with Mitchell Robinson in the series. By the way, Isaiah Hartenstein's probably just a more mobile version of Mitchell Robinson, so he's probably going to have a hard time with him
the
on the
Knicks
boards.
fans miss Ihart.
And
the Knicks fans miss Mitchell
say,
Robinson in the fourth quarter tonight too.
And you could say to Chet Holmgren, "Hey, Chet, we're just going to have you go guard Pascal Siakam and be even bigger and longer than him and be able to stick with him." So the Thunder have an answer to all the different quirks that the Pacers have in a way that certainly the Cavs did not, when they had nobody to guard the perimeter guys for the Pacers, and the Knicks did not, where they could just go at the Brunson and Towns hub whenever they wanted. Like it's just gonna. I just don't see where they're gonna come up with those points. And
yeah,
I don't see how they're stopping Shea.
I don't see how they're doing it 4 times. That's the thing. Like, the Thunder are not an elite shooting team, and they can have a night where they can't hit a shot from the outside. And, you could have that, or you have one night where the Pacers are super red hot. But
yeah, I mean, Thunder in 5, I think, feels like the pretty reasonable. I'm sure will be a heavily
Rick Carlisle said we're the underdog
prediction
in every game except for tonight. They were the favorite in tonight's game. All right. Well, we will be talking about it. We're going to shift a little bit. I have a podcast that comes out on Wednesday. That I know. But then after that, we're going to have podcasts that run the day of
each game.
That will come out the day of each game. That's with us. And then because Bontemps and MacMahon are going to have to work post game, and I'm going to have a timer on them. See who finishes faster.
That's going to be a no contest.
We will have some post game podcasts after.
We do have a. You don't have to write anything.
That's right. I'm not comparing. I'm not putting myself in there.
No, I'm talking about Bontemps. Bontemps is there to type my stories for me.
I said it was a no contest.
Well, you're going to
have it any way you want.
You're going to have to go see the Thunder trainer when you get in and get it buddy wrapped.
Dude, no, I'm good, man. Listen, we'll have some Bontemps. Pack your kicks. We're going to have pickup rope.
By the way, how many pairs of many you brought?
No,
like 97. I got a lot of comments about the MacMahon shoes. A lot of comments.
No, seriously, I want a photo.
Bunch of dorks.
I want, when you get to Oklahoma City and unpack, I want you to line them all up, and I want to see the photo.
Honestly,
how many? So let's lay this out. How many shoes are you taking? People are going to want to know.
I don't think I can go more than I did last series, and I can't go more suits. Like I can fit 8.
Well, there's more TV days.
Well, I know I'm gonna have to double. I'm gonna have to don't tell anybody, but I'm gonna have to repeat some suits. Probably unless you're.
Oh my God! I had 4 jackets for the conference finals.
Unless you're right on the
suits. I was told if you're right on your prediction, shoes or suits.
Hey, if you're right on your prediction, I'll be okay on both of them.
Or so you're not going to prepare? Not going to prepare for 7?
I will have to. If there's 7, there'll be some suits repeated, and
you always can slip home to Dallas too. You can go home to Dallas. Okay,
well, he can't. I mean, God forbid he go home to Dallas. The very long 3-hour drive that he can't make.
Dude, just you do your job, and I'll do mine.
But how many shoes are we bringing? The people want to know.
Well, there'll be 8 suits, so 8 kicks, plus my everyday, just pair of Chucks or Blazers or whatever, just kind of wear on it, just around. Plus
the around shoes.
Plus some shoes, some running shoes in case I listen to the IT department and get on the elliptical.
So we got around shoes, we got running shoes, we got hoop shoes. How many other shoes?
Can I ask you? No, real talk here. Real talk.
So we're up to 12 pairs of shoes.
What is your?
Dude, that's 11, you doofus.
What is your method for I'm not making fun of you. I don't want to know. What is your method for packing them? How do you put them in your suitcase? I would seriously take a photo. I would like to see a photo.
Do you have an NBA team level shoe bag?
No, I just.
But you know what? You might want to think about that.
Listen, I pack shoes. I've now had to. I got to bring a duffel bag. That's just I put my hoop shoes in there. Put my running shoes in there, and then a bunch of, if you must know, underwear and T-shirts and stuff. That's the duffel bag. And then there's one bag that's paired to jeans and some golf shirts, just in case I have to look fairly classy if I go out to a decent dinner. And then just a bunch of shoes and sweats and hoodies and whatnot. And then there's this all suits with, suits and dress shirts and whatnot. That's just one other full check bag. So you've seen it.
3
There's
bags.
2 check bags, 4, because then there's a computer bag. So there's 2 check bags, a duffel bag, and a computer bag.
Oh my God.
Wendy,
so the
the
shoes are in the duffel bag. Well, actually, don't say that. Somebody will see that duffel bag and they'll steal it.
My wife goes on a 2-week vacation.
No, only 2 pairs of shoes are in the duffel bag. The good kicks are in a check bag.
All right, a couple more things. One, after each game, we're going to have a short podcast with, I believe we have an NBA champion who's going to be our special guest. I believe, but I'm a little bit worried about saying it because every year
employed NBA champion.
Is he employed? He's employed by somebody. Is he? Oh, is he in the NBA right now? No.
No, is he an ESPN employee?
It's a gray area.
Okay.
But remember a couple years ago, Perk was all set up to do the.
That's what I was trying to get at.
No, it's not Perk. It's not Perk. We can't. By the way, Perk wants to come on. He looked at me the other day and he gave me like a. He's like, I'm pissed at you, man. I'm like, why? He goes, I haven't been on your podcast. I'm like, Perk.
You've blown it off about 7 times.
Yeah. All right. So that's one thing. The other thing is this. Jackson will be on the road with us. Jackson, you're invited to this.
Dude,
for the last 4 years.
This is really sad because he heard about it Tipsy Tiki and then he had to get on board.
The last 4 years, we've had an annual ESPN tradition of movie night during the finals.
Oh God, what a bunch
started. Yeah, you don't come, so fine. You can be quiet. The first year it happened was when we saw Top Gun. We saw it in the IMAX in San Francisco.
That was the one I participated in.
The last 2 years, what do you have to say, MacMahon? You don't think Top Gun and the IMAX was a great night?
Yeah, I mean, go on.
All right, the last 2 years, I'm not going to lie, the pickings were rough. It was a rough time. However, this year, there's like 4 or 5 excellent movies that are available. So,
isn't there only one option?
I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. If you come hang out at the Tipsy Tiki, then I will go to movie night.
Yeah, he ain't doing that. Isn't there only one option to go to a blockbuster movie right now?
No, there's several good movies out right now.
I know he's not doing that. I
don't think my preference of the Phoenician scheme is going to win out.
The Phoenician
that would be my preference. But
is that a movie?
It is a movie. I think the Mission Impossible movie is going to be the choice with the ultimate movie star.
Maybe not. There's several potentially good movies. And so like if people want to make a case in the comments, Jackson can tell me. I don't look at the comments with me.
Why are you surfing for YouTube comments that you're never going to listen to anyway?
I'm aura farming.
You're
aura farming.
You really are aura farming. What is happening right now?
We're talking about our finals plans.
Did you just learn the term aura farming?
I did.
He learned it when Tyrese Halliburton said it the other day.
I never heard it.
That's when he learned it.
Okay, I learned it from some of these young whippersnapper writers who accuse players of aura farming, and I had to say, what the hell is that?
I'd never heard it before Halliburton said it. I'd never heard it said
something.
So if it's a popular thing, it was
now Brian's doing it. Tell me what movie to go to that I'm not going to listen to.
Wendy has been doing it unwittingly for quite some time.
Oh.
Why would he do that?
Why would he do that?
Damn. Jackson's cutting that out.
There's strays all over the place at 1:50 in the morning.
All right.
When I take the
what a rollicking end of the pod. And just to think, in a couple of days, we're going to be doing this in person. It's going to be swell.
Jackson gets to do the thing where he comes in and claps.
Jackson, make sure that you get good, up close of my kicks in this series. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
A lot of effort to put into these things.
Is 11 pairs of kicks, 11 or 12. We lose count.
Yeah,
it's great.
You're farming something else with that move. All right. Thank you to Jackson for staying up late. Thank you to Bontemps for staying up late. I'm going to bed in my own bed. MacMahon's going to bed in his own bed.
I don't get a thank you.
Thank you to MacMahon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Sorry.
Playing hurt.
Thank you for watching, listening to the Hoop Collective on Saturday night. we will talk to you on Wednesday, I think.
Adios, amigos.